Hi, hello. First, thank you. I appreciate every single one of you who decides to sub to me. 50k in 11 months is crazy. I wasn't expecting to grow this fast. I'm not recovering from corneal cross-linking, like I said, because Health New Zealand fucked up, and they were actually just giving me a checkup to see if I needed corneal cross-linking still. So I'll probably be having that at some point next year. So you're getting the Q&A a few days early. There are, no joke, 72 questions in this spreadsheet. I'm not going to get to all of them, and some of them are relatively unwell. Also, some of them will hopefully be answered by other questions. If I don't get to your question exactly as you asked it, I'm sorry, but the 72 of you have asked questions. That's crazy. So I'll get started. Do I have stairs in my house? I am protected. Where is your avatar profile picture from? Did you make it yourself? Yeah, I make it myself. I do art occasionally. Here's some in the background, real quick, for stuff. A lot of it's just a mixture of Procreate and really abusing Lightroom, pushing Lightroom to its, far off extent. So, yeah, I don't make as much as I should, and I'm probably going to try and do more this year when I get a better chance. It's more just I haven't had time. What happened to the video you teased where the premise was why are VTubers like that? I found myself not knowing enough about VTubers other than a lot of them are large-boobied anime girls, and a subset of that are weirdly racist. Speaking of not racist VTubers, I found one that was a cow, which was neat, just a big cow. And that was delightful. But to be honest, I started reading and writing, and I was just genuinely not knowledgeable enough about the space to go as deep as I would like. For now, there's, always the chance I'll pick it back up, but I just found myself not knowing enough, and I didn't want to make myself a fool. There are a lot of questions about my connection to Something Awful, so I'll pick one or two. What drew you into telling Something Awful stories? What's your personal history with the site? Why is somethingawful.com the niche you fill? Also, have you ever fully recovered from that racist chili? Kind of sums up most of them altogether. If you haven't subbed to my Patreon, I made a video about a thread from Something Awful's Goons with Spoons subforum. It's the cooking subforum, and I made what can only be described as a racist or anti-Semitic chili. It was the worst chili I've ever had. Shill my Patreon real quick. There's 6 bonus things on there. There's 4 of them audio, podcast only. 2 of them are video. You get videos a week-ish early when these videos go up, so that's neat, but that's about all the shilling I'll do for Patreon. I'll also use this as a chance to cover the what made you start YouTube stuff. So I've been a member of Something Awful since I was 19 years old. I'm in my mid-30s now. About a year and a half ago, I started doing a podcast about Something Awful called All This for $10 because I wasn't a huge fan of the ways Something Awful stories are told online, either the presentation or the format, or in some cases the lack of knowledge about the culture and the place, and I thought I'd give it a try. I stumbled dick first into the Grum stuff with the help of everyone else at what at the time was called Western Kabuki and is now called Kill the Computer. They're homies. I do a couple of bonus episodes for them a month on their Patreon. Go check them out on their free feed if you want to go and have a look at some cool stuff about the internet. But my first YouTube video was the Grum stuff, and that popped off super hard. At the time, the podcast was getting about 1,000 downloads an episode, which as far as I know is pretty decent for baby's first podcast. I didn't have an online presence really before then. I hard pivoted to YouTube after changing day job and buying a house because I had less time to organize guests and write podcast stuff, and YouTube seemed to fit the output levels I had and let me get some of my other skills out there. So there are questions about how long have you been in the creator space, asking since your videos are relatively well produced despite your channel's age. I work in advertising for a day job. I've been doing creative stuff, so Premiere Pro and Photoshop, mostly in social media for 8 years. I've been in marketing for longer. I have edited a few TV shows. You'll only find me with 1 IMDb credit, maybe 2. There's also questions about what inspires me and where my script writing and narration process comes from. My inspirations are, I don't know, they're hard to pin down. A lot of the time I'm making things that I would want to see more than anything else, and I am trying to improve every time, and hopefully that shows if you go oldest to newest. I have a big fondness for classic BBC documentaries. Think Walking with Dinosaurs and The Ballad of Big Al. As for the way I do my comic delivery and the timing, because there are questions about that, I think that's quite a New Zealand thing. Obviously I have a really big fondness for Monty Python, which, I don't know, it's just that kind of comedy always tickles me, and Blackadder. but try the original What We Do in the Shadows movie. I think that one shows the delivery of how New Zealanders do comedy. And I also love the delivery of New Zealand Today. It's a New Zealand mockumentary series. I'll link that in the description. Check that out. It's really funny. You might need a VPN, but hopefully you don't. Just search New Zealand Today and Guy Williams and you'll find it. He's very funny. As for my script writing and narration, I sit down and read the topic, so typically it's a forum thread, and I try and pick out a narrative through it. So I don't want to sit there and read every single post that happens during an event. I try and actually tell the timeline in a story, and I think that might be a big difference between me and how some other people cover something awful, but I try and weave those stories into something with a bit of humor and building into a comedy moment. I try and check where the subject of each thread ends up so I can end it with a definitive ending, but that's hard because a lot of people just log off and never come back. But when that's done and I'm happy with it, I normally do 1 or 2 passes there. I then record it, and almost every time once I record it and I listen, I then rewrite it because it's not flowing quite right. And then I go and re-record, and I start that process from there with building the video around the script. I tend to remove 5 to 10% of the recorded script or editing as well, just because it's too wordy or too obtuse. And I think that works quite well, and it's giving me a process of decent videos at a decent pace. What is my favorite drill post? I'm torn between the classic Skeleton War post and the Wario is a Libertarian post. Those two, I'll put them on the screen. Have a look at them. Are there any stories you'd like to cover that you haven't gotten around to yet? Care to tell us one? I have a list of about 30 entries. I will get to the ones done by Strange Aeons and the like eventually, Samadhi Village and Grover House. I have strong thoughts about how to cover Grover House in a way that explains why he became a meme. I feel like a lot of the retellings miss explaining who Grover was deep down and why people dunked on him. But aside from that, there's stuff like Pig Island Goon Warrior, as I call it, the Dark Id, who was a streamer, who was just a serial fabulist of a storyteller, Numbers Guy, building a secret room in my apartment, accidentally invading Syria, who was a different goon to Caro, who also invaded Syria. I will do Danganronpa at some point, and also I'd love to cover the Zyborn clock incident at some point as well. There's a lot. Something Awful is over 25 years old. Like, this is a rich gold mine. And I'm surprised it's not been dug in as much, but I think it's harder because it's behind a paywall, so no one wants to pay. But hey, more for the taking, right? That's actually a good segue into what topics that I would never plan on discussing on the channel. There's not a lot aside from like, there's stuff where like, you know, someone has a meltdown and then it's just dunking on someone who's having a meltdown that I won't do. I probably won't do Lotax as a deep dive. That one just feels a bit weird. It's a personal thing, I think. His kids are still alive is probably a big one. I don't want to make a video about someone's shitty dead dad, even if he was an abusive shitty dead dad. That's, you know, that's a me thing. I think there's already enough low tax deep dives at the end of the day from other people who care more about it. That's just me. The most insane thread or story that I probably can't cover is probably swap.avi, which was an adult entertainment video commissioned by a goon that involved a lot of bodily fluids. No, not talking about that one, I fear. As for what video I'm most proud of, that's hard because I hate my earlier ones. I don't like the Grums videos. I think they're not great from a technical level and a script writing level, and I could do them way better if I was doing them again today. But I love the Hulk Hogan, the Meat Shoes one because I was able to get Bruce on there. And also I'm really proud of The Internet is Full of Ghosts. It didn't do very well because it's a very like thought video essay, bread tube style thing, but it's nice as a video and I'm quite proud of it. Check it out if you haven't. It's just me talking about death, so it's kind of sad. Am I and Hassan Piker secretly separated from birth? I hope not. I'm more commonly compared to Colin Farrell, which is, you know, interesting. How tortuous is it to live in New Zealand? It's not really. It's pretty great. It has some problems. Things are rough, like economically, and it's a bit of a backwater sometimes, but the people are great, the food is excellent, the beaches are wonderful, and my family's here, right? I've considered moving, but then I'd have to give up on the good stuff as well. And that's a math equation that doesn't add up for me just yet, so. This one's part of a longer question, and I'm sorry, homie, they're all good questions in here, but it's huge, so I'll just cut out one little part of it. I get the impression that you have a degree of fondness for the old internet, but judging by the way you talk about it, you see that the culture is harmful and directly responsible for a lot of bad things in the world today. I kind of want to know about how exactly you look back on those days now with the benefit of hindsight. There's another question. It's like, do you long for the old days of the internet, or would you still be able to find the feeling of the old internet today? I think us being online all the time is really bad. There's a post where it's like, the smartphone is evil, but the desktop computer is a nervous horse with the capacity for love, that I refer to a lot in my own brain mind. I think being so online is not great. It's really not great. On one hand, you have to take into account nostalgia, the rose-tinted glasses from when things were better when I was, 15, my knees didn't hurt, I had no mortgage, and I had no responsibilities, right? When I was 15, it cost $25 for a 128 megabyte USB stick from the stationery store, and things have changed so fast in that time, right? I have a cheap memory card in my Steam Deck the size of my thumbnail that has a terabyte of storage. That's wild to me, as when I was younger, a gigabyte was unheard of on a USB stick, right? Mobile phones connected to the internet wasn't a thing until I was out of high school. And that sounds wild when you realize I'm only in my mid-30s. Things have advanced so insanely fast and society hasn't really kept up with safeguarding. I do kind of long for the old days where we weren't so hyper-connected to each other and we could log off and things were slower. I've kind of shackled myself to a lead weight there because I work in digital marketing and have a YouTube channel. I can't get off Mr. Bones' wild ride there. I think the internet has done a lot of horrific stuff. I think social media is responsible for some horrific atrocities. But it's also given us some good. Obviously, I don't have an example off the top of my head. I think hyperconnectivity is a little bit harmful. We should know less about each other. Forums are good. You can find that feeling on forums. I'm still active on Something Awful, so I guess I can answer the question of what is your actual opinion on Something Awful as a site. And that's slightly complicated because I've been there a long time. Obviously not as long as some of the true old goons. I think it's a great site with a rich history and a vibrant culture that's not going to die out anytime soon. It has problems, yes. I think it's done some horrific stuff to people in the past that is bad, but it's matured and grown out of that, and it's still edgy, and if you show an ounce of weakness, you die from people hyper-dunking on you. I have a great deal of fondness for it as a site. Do I recommend joining? If you don't flood the forums, if you want to join, then for the love of God, lurk. And just browse what you want without an account. See if you like the vibe. See how people conduct themselves. Otherwise, you are just going to make a fool of yourself. It's not like Reddit, where you can just make an account and get hyper banned in a day. The mods still enforce things. I still am quite fond of it, is the summary there. Do you have a favorite type of bird? I'm quite fond of the kerruroo. It's a New Zealand native bird. They've got a new little singlet, as you can see, and they get drunk off of berries and then fall out of trees. They rule. There's a lot of NZ birds that are globally underappreciated that I love. We have guys that tear apart cars, really fat swamp chickens, a lot of really cool birds. Can we have your analysis of every Fast and the Furious movie? Would there be a demand for this? I could do it as a bit on Patreon, I think, maybe. I've just finished watching the whole series, and that franchise hates women. It just treats them as like a reward for driving fast. It's crazy. I do like that Vin Diesel becomes a road mage by the end of it. He has superpowers. It rules. But wow, they treat women like props for racing dudes. It's crazy. If there were two guys on the moon and one guy hit the other guy over the head with a big rock and killed him, would that be fucked up or what? Yes. What is your favorite food? I have a few. Dumplings as a whole rule. I'm fond of beef and cumin and pork and fennel. Prawn toasts are also good, and my favorite sandwich lately is the Anthony Bourdain special, which is fried mortadella, provolone, mustard and mayo, and that goes insanely hard on brioche bread. What is the story behind your outro song? I've looked into Titan Wizard Demon's other music on SoundCloud, but outside of those few songs and a few clips on YouTube, I can find nothing about them. That's my friend Scumcrank's old band. I met him playing EVE Online 6 years ago at this point, 5 years ago. I asked him if I could use the music for Grums' video and also outros, and he said yes. I thought it was funny as a bit. Just kind of so many of my topics are so unserious that it's just a great bit as a credits song. The band has obviously broken up. You can find them on SoundCloud. There are some bootlegs on YouTube. They're not from him. They are on SoundCloud. Go to the SoundCloud. I keep putting in the description and in the credits of every video who it's from and where it is, and I get a comment on almost every single video going, "Where can I find this song?" And it's like, it's in the fucking description. People just don't read. There is another question about my music and where it comes from. I make all the background music for my videos. They are released under a Creative Commons license and are available at a link in the description. Use them. I would love to see you use them in stuff. Other than that, thank you for all the questions. I appreciate all of you. Genuinely, it's like 50k is crazy. The next video is going to talk about how the Ultimate Warrior threatened to sue something awful one time. I have the script ready for that, ready to go. Other than that, don't forget, the internet makes you stupid.
Walk into the bank with some shit in your pants, 'cause you had too many crystals and you somehow tried to dance. Walk up to the teller with an awkward grin on your face. Hand over the shitty check to him and it's time to get paid. But he says he can't cash it 'cause it's covered in shit. There's no way to sign it, and it's not even legible.